Hi everybody, today I'm going to share my beef liver and heart pate recipe with you. I often mention the importance of getting organ meats like liver in your diet, both to heal your gut and to get all your nutrients in. Pate is my personal favorite way to do that, and a few of you asked me to make a video showing how I make pate, so that's what I'm going to show today. Now, I started making pate in 2020, and I have been making it regularly and consuming it ever since, so it's been 5 years now. Along the way, I have learned a lot of tricks. Liver is notorious for being very metallic tasting and just not being the best tasting food unless you're somebody that grew up eating liver and just really like it. There are definitely people like that, but for a lot of people, liver doesn't taste the best. So through this past 5 years of making liver and having it almost every single day, I have learned a lot of different ways to make it taste better. So as I go over the recipe, I'm going to include a lot of tips and tricks to help you make it taste a lot better. And also note, I have a full written recipe for my liver and heart pate up on my blog, so that will be linked down below. So let's get into the recipe. The first part is to take the bacon and heart, if you're using, out of the fridge just to let it warm up a little bit. This will just help the bacon especially cook more evenly, but it'll help the heart too. So if you're using heart, take it out. Take the bacon out. There's going to be 6 pieces of bacon, and if you're using heart, you're going to use a half a pound of beef heart, or any heart really, and a pound of liver. The other option is to omit the heart and just do 1.5 pounds of liver. Now, it's totally up to you. I personally prefer to include heart for 2 reasons. One, beef heart tastes almost exactly like steak. It does not have a weird organy flavor, so it helps to just make the whole pate taste better. Also, I believe in eating nose to tail and eating as much of the animal as possible. And when you eat this way, it helps you to balance your nutrient intake a lot better. So I like to eat both liver and heart because then I'm getting more variety of organs in my diet, and it helps me to balance my nutrient intake more. Now, liver is like the most nutrient dense food I have found, so you do want a little bit more liver. So anyway, use either 1.5 pounds of liver or a pound of liver, half a pound of heart. I personally use beef for both. Beef is a little bit more nutritious than something like chicken, but chicken liver is a little bit more mild, so some people prefer to have that. You could use lamb liver, you could use venison liver, you could use pork liver, whichever one you want really. Also, make sure you get the best quality liver possible. This will be better for your health, but it'll also taste a lot better. So I recommend you get grass-fed liver, and if you can find one from a regenerative farm that's local, that will taste even better and be even better for you. I find that Whole Foods and local health food stores typically have liver, and a lot of them have heart too. So just ask the butcher. A lot of times it's either at the butcher counter or in the frozen section, but it's a lot easier to find than you think. It's worth trying a few different ones from a few different stores around to see which one you like the taste of the best as well. And then also I want to note before we get on to the second step, liver does not store toxins. A lot of people worry because liver is such a prominent detox organ, is it storing toxins and then am I consuming a lot of toxins? No, the liver is going to process toxins and then move them on out through your bile and actually into your digestive tract so that the toxins can come out in your stools. The same thing happens for animals. So when you're eating liver, obviously the better quality you get, the better and the healthier it will be and the less toxins it will have. But liver is not an organ that actually stores toxins in it. So it is totally fine to eat and more than fine. It's amazing. So the second step, you want to rinse the liver in water, then transfer it to a small bowl and cover it with milk. Then you cover the bowl, place it on the counter, and let it soak for 30 minutes. So both rinsing the liver and then soaking it in milk help a ton to decrease that metallic-y flavor. The first time I ever made pate, I did not do this, either one of those steps, and it was so metallic-y. It tastes so much better. Don't skip this. Most of it, you can just let it soak while you're doing the rest of the steps. It's not crazy. It's pretty easy. So then the third step is while your liver is soaking, you want to cook the bacon. So lay 6 bacon strips out on a cold pan so that none of them are crowded or overlapping. Heat your pan over medium heat and cook for roughly 8 to 12 minutes, flipping occasionally so that they're golden brown and lightly crisped, but not burnt at all. Then you're going to transfer the bacon to a blender. You're not going to blend it yet, but we're going to blend later, so just put it there for now. Then the next step is you're going to cut your butter into chunks. So I use a half a cup of butter, which is a stick most of the time, but you can always check the markings on the side because there's some variety. So make sure you're using a half a cup of butter. Cut that into chunks and place it in a small pot over medium-high heat and melt the butter. Watch it carefully because it can start to burn as soon as that butter melts. So you want to watch it really good. Then just pour the melted butter into your blender. The next step is when the bacon is done cooking, make sure you leave some of that bacon grease, if not all of it, in your pan so you can use it to cook the garlic. So I use 2 garlic cloves for this recipe. So you want to slice those and then just put them in the pan over medium heat, the same pan you cooked the bacon in. Saute them, stir them a little bit. It only takes about a minute or 2 until they're golden brown, and then you can move the garlic slices into the blender. Now, by this point, your liver is likely done soaking or it has a little bit more time, so wait if it's not done yet. And as soon as your liver is done soaking, you're going to drain it and rinse each of the liver pieces. Just make sure they're all drained and not soaking wet. Then you want to cut them into about 1 centimeter cubed pieces, and you want to make sure they're really even so they're all cook even. And you want to do the same with your heart. So you don't soak the heart, but you can now take it, it's been on the counter just kind of warming up, and you can slice that into 1 centimeter chunks if you're using that. Okay, note in these pictures here, I was trying a new brand of liver this time, and I noticed that the color of the liver was a lot lighter after soaking, and it was kind of mushy when I was cutting it up. That is not normally how it is when I get liver. And just having the taste, I just made this and tried it yesterday, and I don't like the taste of that liver quite as much. So I would say look for a much darker liver. These ones did look darker before I soaked them, but it usually retains that darkerness when I soak it, and that always tastes better to me personally. So just note, I'll put a picture of what the liver usually looks like for me because it's usually a lot darker and not so mushy. Okay, so the next step is that same pan you cooked the bacon and garlic in. You're going to use it again. After you cook the garlic, still leave whatever bacon grease is in there. Heat it over medium-high heat. Once it's hot, add the liver and the heart if you're using, and cook it for about 6 minutes. Now, I actually put a timer on for 6 minutes every time I make pâté because you do not want to overcook it. I overcooked it the first time I made pâté, and I still remember how funky it was. My first batch was my worst batch. I've gotten so much better since then. But it makes it really, really grainy, and grainy pâté is not good. Just trust me on that. Smooth pâté is way better. And yeah, so you really do need to leave a little pink on the inside. I just find 6 minutes works great for me, and I stir it a few times in there too. So just make sure there's still a little pink and you're not cooking it well done. So when it's done cooking, you want to add the liver to the blender, and any juices that have come out, make sure you add those to the blender as well. So everything in the pot or in the pan is now going into the blender. Those juices will make it a nicer consistency, I found. Okay, so the 8th step is to add the remaining ingredients to the blender. So that's going to be a half a cup of bone broth. That's going to be a teaspoon of dry thyme, or you can mince up fresh thyme and add a tablespoon of minced fresh thyme. Same with the oregano. I'm using a teaspoon of dried oregano here, but you can also mince up fresh oregano and have a tablespoon of fresh minced oregano. Then you also want to add a teaspoon of salt. Do not forget the salt. I made that mistake like 1 or 2 batches ago, and I could not figure out why does this one taste so bad? What did I do wrong? And I forgot the salt. I don't know how I forgot the salt. I love salt, but don't forget the salt. It makes it taste way better. And then add a 1/4 cup of milk. And then just blend it till it's really, really smooth. You don't want to under blend it or it's going to be chunky. Chunky pâté is not good. You want super smooth pâté. A tip I have found here is always check your milk expiration date before you add it. We will typically have a lot of milk in our fridge, like several, like at least 2 or 3 gallons after I grocery shop. So sometimes I will actually pull a jug from the back and open it just to add that to the pâté because the expiration date will be the best. So this pâté lasts for 2 weeks very consistently for me, as long as that milk doesn't expire beforehand. So when you're adding your milk, make sure it's going to last for 2 weeks before it expires. Also, I couldn't show it in the video here because I don't have enough hands to hold the camera and use that tamper on the blender at the same time, but that thing sticking up the top, out of the top, and also that goes into the blender, you can use that to basically stir it around while it's blending and push the sides of the pâté that builds up on the sides down to make sure everything blends well. So I always use that. That works really well. Okay, lastly, you're going to transfer the pâté to a jar or Tupperware and store in the fridge. I always recommend glass. I find, yeah, like I was saying before, mine lasts 2 weeks. Sometimes it's a tad longer, but not usually. But it's very consistent that it lasts 2 weeks for me. It typically makes about 4 cups, sometimes a tiny bit more, sometimes a tiny bit less. Today, or when I was making it this time, you can see it's a little bit under. Each of those jars was 2 cups, so it made a little under today. And then, yeah, I have 2 tablespoons every single day. That's the way I like to have it. You could also have it with crackers or sourdough toast if you want. But yeah, I like to just eat 2 tablespoons every single day with my lunch. I have it in 3 bites. I chew it super well. I kind of chase it down with water quickly. I personally am someone who does not like the taste of liver. I think I do a really, really good job with this pâté, making it taste way better and making it tolerable for me. But I am not a liver person, so I do have to kind of chase it down quickly. But I do have a lot of friends that really do like it, and I even will give them a jar for their birthdays sometimes, and they'll be super stoked on it and eat it pretty fast. So if you do like liver, then you're really, really gonna love this. And if you don't like liver, it's gonna make it so much more tolerable to get it down really quick. Okay, a few more important notes. So I recommend that everybody eats about 3.5 to 10 ounces of liver every single week. So that's about 1 to 4 tablespoons of pâté. That also depends if you're adding heart or not. I think 2 tablespoons is a perfect amount, so that's what I go for. Note that's also if that's your only source of liver or organs. So sometimes I'll make like a kidney meal for dinner with beef kidney, and if I have that, I won't have pâté at the same time. Or, you know, if I just have another source, then I'll have a little bit less pâté if I have ground beef with organs mixed in, or if I have chicken liver mixed into a meal or something like that. Sometimes I'll just keep that normal, but if it's a good source, a good amount of some more organs, then you can have less. But 2 tablespoons a day is sweet spot in my opinion. But also if you are like if you have children that you're giving it to, you might just give them 1 tablespoon. Or if you're like a really big guy or a pregnant woman or nursing woman or a woman preparing for pregnancy, then you might want to go higher with 3 or 4 tablespoons a day. Okay, some people will wonder about, can you have too much liver? And yes, you can. So the thing where you can overdo it is liver is very, very rich in vitamin A, and vitamin A is a fat soluble nutrient, so it stores in your fat and you can use it for a long time. It stores for around 6 months, where water soluble nutrients, which is the majority of them, you don't really store well. And you really need to keep getting them regularly because you'll get rid of a lot of your extra. But fat soluble can accumulate and you can really stock up on them. But if you have too much vitamin A, which can happen by in one sitting eating way too much, or over time chronically like adding too much, you can get what's called hypervitaminosis A. So you can look into that if you want, but it's basically a toxic overload, too much vitamin A. This is very, very uncommon as long as you're eating like the amounts I recommended. If you're not eating more than 10 ounces of liver a week, you are totally good. As long as you're avoiding polar bear liver. Polar bear liver is ridiculously high in vitamin A. And as long as you're avoiding synthetic vitamin A, so supplement with synthetic vitamin A or synthetic vitamin A that was added to foods, that is a lot easier to overdo. Other than that, you're way, way, way more likely to be deficient in vitamin A than overdoing it. So Lily Nichols, the author of Real Food for Pregnancy, references an awesome study in her book, and it's a Dutch study of over 1,700 women, and those who ate liver almost always consumed adequate vitamin A, while about 70% of women who avoided liver failed to meet the RDA, that's the recommended daily allowance of liver. So yeah, a lot more people don't get enough than get too much. So if you're worried about too much, just stay under 10 ounces a week and you will be fine. Also, just be mindful of other sources of vitamin A that you consume. For example, I consume cod liver oil, so I just stick to 2.5 milliliters of that a day and my 2 tablespoons of liver, and that is fine on vitamin A. If you're going a bit over, again, synthetic is the really big problem. Natural vitamin A, it's a lot harder to overdo. Anyway, the written recipe is going to be linked down below, and I have tons of other Weston A Price style ancestral gut healing diets on my blog. So if you want more recipes, you can check them out on there. I'll leave a link down below. And yeah, this video was a suggestion from 2 different people, actually. I thought that was funny that 2 people wanted the same video. But anyway, I love making videos that you guys suggest that you want. So if you have any suggestions for future videos, put them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.